Go for it.
Hola.
Ya empezamos a hablar así, nada más.
Ah,
De una.
yeah, this is live, yeah.
Lánzate, mija.
Go for it.
Ya empezamos a hablar así, nada más.
Ah,
De una.
yeah, this is live, yeah.
Lánzate, mija.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Somebody has their browser not muted. Live, yeah.
Lánzate, mija.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Somebody.
Okay.
Oh no, I didn't want her to go away, but she just had to mute her browser. Hi, Erasma.
Hola, George. How are you?
Llegamos.
Llegamos en vivo, mi gente.
Yes, I'm
What's
so
up?
like I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Like, who would have thought?
I know.
We're here. Like,
We're here.
celebrating.
Ahí está María.
Okay, yeah, here we go. There you go.
Hola, María.
Hola, ¿cómo está? Me dio un pánico.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
You just disappeared on us. I was like, where'd she go?
So
Erasma, we're
George
here.
and I were just talking that we were super excited that, aquí estamos, right? A few short months and we're celebrating our 1,200 plus subscribers. So this is like a huge milestone. Increíble, ¿verdad?
Yes, absolutely.
I'll be honest with you, I have been blown away, estupefacta y atónita, porque sinceramente ha sido una respuesta y una bienvenida que no estaba esperando. Uno oye que YouTube se demora, que todo toma tiempo, pero la verdad que ha sido con tanto cálido amor y una bienvenida, una recepción increíble.
Sí.
Yo he quedado tan agradecida con todos ustedes, sinceramente, de verdad, de todo corazón.
Sí, sí, exacto. Yo súper emocionada por el increíble apoyo que todos han tenido por nosotros, todo el amor, todas las ideas, todo. Sí, la celebración de las ideas progresistas, ¿verdad? Porque muchas personas se han comunicado. And just so the audience know, vamos a hablar un poquito en español, vamos a hablar un poquito en inglés, porque obviamente estamos representando a toda Latinoamérica, pero también a la diáspora que está en los Estados Unidos y en otras partes en el mundo. Así es que vamos a estar intercambiando lenguajes o idiomas. But yeah, I'm so excited to share a little bit about us.
Yeah.
Hablar un poco sobre nosotros, hablar sobre nuestras razones por la cual empezamos a Tambora Dialogues. No sé, reflexiones también de los episodios que hemos tenido y también responder a cualquier pregunta que la gente tenga.
Sí, por favor, si tienen alguna pregunta, alguna inquietud que tienen con nosotros, déjenos saber que hasta aquí estamos. Y Erasma, también quería decir que la otra cosa que también me llena de mucho orgullo es que las conversaciones que tenemos en Tambora no son a veces muy fáciles, son cosas que son bastante, como se dice en inglés, challenging, que quizás no son la manera en que nos criamos, pero de todas maneras la gente nos están escuchando, están interactuando con nosotros, a veces no tan, no con tanto amor, pero de todas maneras están reflexionando y es una conversación que estamos teniendo, que no toda conversación va a ser fácil, pero cada conversación, con mucho orgullo lo digo, ha sido necesaria, and that I'm especially proud of. No toda conversación va a ser fácil, pero cada conversación, con mucho orgullo lo digo, ha sido necesaria, and that I'm especially proud of. No toda conversación va a ser fácil, pero cada conversación... That's not me.
So, estoy escuchando como un eco.
Sí.
Sí. No eres tú, María.
I don't hear it now, but okay.
Okay.
No, y también, como te digo, como una persona que trabaja en los medios sociales, te digo que YouTube ha sido uno de las plataformas más difíciles de llegar a una meta así de 1,000 suscriptores. Y bueno, da la prueba de que es el contenido, ¿verdad? Yo creo que el contenido que nosotros ponemos como equipo es único. Yo creo que es una perspectiva muy diferente a muchas plataformas que hay allá afuera. No somos comerciales, así que nosotros a nadie nos dirige lo que tenemos que hablar y lo que no tenemos que hablar. Entonces yo creo que todo eso ayuda porque la gente tiene hambre por una perspectiva diferente. Están cansados de que la plataforma de los medios mayores le estén dando como feeding their mind into, you know, with the popular perspectives and not the different and hard conversations, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm super excited about that piece because it's really hard to have something that's unique and different.
Right.
And it has naturally become that with this team, you know. So I'm super excited about that piece.
Yeah.
You know, hablando, sorry.
No, te iba a decir, I was going to say that estuve hablando con Milka. Ustedes se recuerdan de Milka?
Sí, claro. Increíble.
Santana, right? So she's the founder of Perfecto Labs, and I was talking with her earlier, and estaba diciendo cómo ha crecido el canal de YouTube and, you know, en el podcast, and we're super excited. Y le estaba comentando que yo pienso, igual que estaba diciendo George, que yo pienso lo que pasa es que es una perspectiva diferente. Y lo que yo he visto es que la demográfica, las personas que se sintonizan para ver los episodios nuestros son jóvenes, ¿verdad? They're young people who are eager to have access to different ideas, right? Who want to have a platform where they can explore different thoughts, different perspectives, and not be pigeonholed into the thinking of, you know, the older generation who are, you know, currently directing, you know, specific countries. Like in La República Dominicana, you know, we have an older electorate. And so the young people are thirsting for a platform, not only to share their own ideas, but to also have access to different viewpoints.
And diversity of viewpoints.
Sí, claro, y que la plataforma esta que tenemos con Tambora es exactamente eso lo que ellos quieren ver.
Pues yo que you know, I think as the old bird here, I'm going to say to the young kids, I'm like, when you're that young or this old, it's like that's when you start embodying sin pelos en la lengua, which, by the way, should probably be our tagline.
Yeah.
Sin pelos en la lengua, because I think that's what que nos caracteriza a los tres como personas y también, you know, Tambora Dialogues.
Sí. Sin filtros.
I think it's funny that she says that because I think I'm the oldest one here. I don't consider myself.
Bueno, señores, yo no voy a delatar mi edad, así es que y'all can guess.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah,
my mother says she's 45, so I'm going with that.
Tato.
Pero, ¿por qué no compartimos un poquito de nosotros? Like, share a little bit about our backgrounds, whatever, you know, we would like to share. Maria, if you want to start, kind of a little bit about yourself.
So, Maria Nieto, and the executive producer of Tambora. I am a writer by trade and by passion and by craft. I'm a screenwriter, I would say, primarily by passion, right? I'm in the Writers Guild of America, and I create screenplays that center women and Latinos. Oh, and my lights are flickering on and off, so I'm very connected to the spiritual world, which clearly approves.
Back to that, yeah.
But I'm also a copywriter and just a writer by trade. So me fascina lo que es conversaciones, the exchange of ideas, to communicate, right? That's what I'm about. Like, how do I process information and bring it out to you in a way that like moves you, right? Si yo me puedo comunicar con ustedes y le muevo algo en el corazón o en la mente y tenemos un diálogo y una interacción, interaction que nos cambia a los dos, he llenado mi propósito en esta vida. That's me.
Yeah. Y María, ¿de dónde vienes? ¿De dónde es tu familia?
Bueno,
¿Por qué hablas español, guapa?
Porque mi mamá, mis padres me inculcaron desde muy pequeña el español. Yo soy nacida en Queens, New York, de padres colombianos, y sinceramente yo hablé español exclusivamente los primeros 5 años de mi vida. Cuando tenía 5 años, mi mamá se acordó que yo empezaba kindergarten y dijo, oye, hijo de madre, tiene que aprender inglés. Me sentó al frente de Sesame Street y dijo, aprenda, mija. Y dicho y hecho, cuando llegué ya era bilingüe. Pero ya, soy de padres colombianos de Queens, New York, que es pretty much like en los 80s era the little Bogotá, little Colombia of New York.
Nice.
Qué bien. Gracias. ¿Y Georgie, tú?
Yo soy el hijo de Carmen y el nieto de Gloria, nacido en Brownsville, New York,
Whoop, whoop.
criado entre Brooklyn y Bayamón, Puerto Rico, East New York specifically. I was very frustrated as a young person about the fact that our histories weren't told in the textbooks, right? So I started when I was an undergrad at SUNY College at Old Westbury, young father, 25 years old. I started a platform called sofritoforyoursoul.com, the first of its kind. So 25 years ago this month, Sofrito for Your Soul was born. And I built it into a small digital agency. It's grown, it's changed, it's shifted, and today I own a couple of different internet properties. I am also the creative director of the show. I worked with Erasma for quite some Maria for quite some time on a different project, and I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy that this is something very different from my other life. I work in social media. I do a lot of consulting for brands and things like that. And this is something que de puro corazón. You know, this is like really like grassroots, like the stuff that I aspire to see in the world. Like this is a completely different project. So there's a lot of passion poured into this from my perspective.
Gracias, George. Bueno, y para los que no me conocen,
yo soy,
bueno, quizás hay gente, qué sé yo, no sé.
1200.9.
Possible. Yo soy Erasma, me considero afro-latina, soy dominicana, estadounidense. Nunca jamás me vas a escuchar decir soy dominicana americana. No, yo soy dominicana estadounidense. Nací en los Estados Unidos, a padres ambos dominicanos, mi madre de Barahona, mi padre de Santiago de los Caballeros. Pero pasé mis años formativos, básicamente de los 6 meses hasta los 7 años aquí en la República Dominicana. Y luego regresaba con mucha frecuencia. Todos los veranos me la pasaba en Santo Domingo, o en Barahona, o en Santiago, en lo que sea. Y siempre me he sentido como que Santo Domingo, República Dominicana, is like my happy place. ¿Verdad? Es la isla de mi felicidad. Y siempre supe que eventualmente regresaría a la isla a vivir y a criar a mis hijos. Y el año pasado dejé una fundación que había creado en Nueva York y tenía muchos años haciendo eso, trabajando específicamente con niños y los padres en ayudarle a cómo poder dar cariño, afecto y atención sumamente importante para los primeros 2 años de la vida, de desarrollo de un niño. Pero decidí dejar eso y venirme para acá, para la República Dominicana, para darle a mis niños, tengo 2, la oportunidad de aprender de su cultura, aprender nuestro idioma, aprender de su identidad dominicana. And so we've been here a year and it's been fabulous. And that really has been the source of my desire to start Tambora Dialogues. This is my why. Connecting to our ancestral values, connecting to our history, connecting to our traditions, connecting to, all of the things that bring our Latin American cultures together and also identify, like María, como tú estabas diciendo, esos temas que son difíciles y que tenemos que conversarlos, porque así podemos lograr ser más saludable como comunidad, como persona, and then create awareness, right? Create awareness and connections.
No, y también pienso que ya es la hora, no solamente para nosotros como una comunidad latina, por ejemplo, latina aquí en los Estados Unidos, pero también globalmente. Ya como planeta estamos al borde.
Sí.
No vamos a conversar, si no vamos a cambiar las cosas ahora, por Dios, ¿cuándo? Cuando ya es muy tarde.
Exacto.
Exacto. Y si uno es joven, ellos no tienen tanto tiempo, o sea, nosotros no tenemos tanto tiempo como ellos, So hay un sentido de urgencia y hay un sentido también para nosotros de que este es el momento, porque ya, we tried being nice, we tried playing polite, we did it. It got us nowhere. At this point, you got to talk.
Tenemos que darnos cuenta de que aquí en Estados Unidos, por ejemplo, entre todos, entre nos, como dicen, somos la séptima economía más grande del mundo.
Exacto.
Si fuéramos un país, fuéramos, y eso no es contando la gente que está en Latinoamérica, eso es contando nada más los latinos que están en Estados Unidos.
Exactamente.
Contando a todo el mundo en Latinoamérica, raro que no fuéramos los primeros, sino los segundos.
Exacto.
Porque los asiáticos son bastante. Yo
mucho.
Pero sí, somos definitivamente como una fuerza global. Somos la primera o la segunda fuerza global del mundo. Tenemos que utilizar ese poder de una forma que nos ayude a progresar, que nos ayude a documentar nuestra historia para que podamos aprender del pasado.
Sí.
Y eso yo creo que es uno de los puntos más importantes de lo que hacemos aquí.
Yo también.
Yo también. Pienso que crear esta plataforma, crearla, que ha sido creada por latinos, ¿verdad? Como nosotros, activistas, personas que puedan contar la historia de una perspectiva nuestra, es sumamente importante. Entonces, for us, by us, with us, todas esas cosas se combinan y nos da una oportunidad de tener conversaciones que a largo plazo no se pueden tener en otros espacios.
Exacto.
¿Verdad? No se pueden tener porque no tienen ese mismo respeto a lo que es nuestra cultura. Yeah, I mean, I even the episode that we just did about, voting, right? The voting specials that we did and talking about the Latino votes. Nobody understands the Latino vote or the Latinx community in the way that we understand, right? And how diverse it is, how connected, but also the diversity that exists. And so I think that's really important, that we have an opportunity to celebrate what makes us interconnected and celebrate our diversity, and do it in a way that is respectful, that is that celebrates, and that there's pride, and that there's also, empujando las espinas, ¿verdad? O sacando las espinas para poder tener esas conversaciones bien difíciles.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that that I'm not proud of, because it's who we are, but the fact that all three of us are from, like, we all live in both cultures equally, right? Yeah. So same as you, I would spend summers in Barranquilla, in Colombia, but I was raised here in the U.S., right? So that sort of like dual perspective, which I'll be honest with you, has its challenges, because sometimes I feel like I don't know enough about either, but I also realize the flip side. I'm like, you know what? But I know enough about both.
Yeah.
So so I'm starting to look at it that way. I'm like, yeah, I understand as an American, like as a U.S. citizen, the conversations we're having. I'm especially proud of our African American brothers and sisters who are having really important conversations about race and equity. And then we kind of look at it and like, all right, who's having that conversation on our side for our community? And exactly. And I think that's sort of one of the perks that comes from like being able to access both of those cultures, is that we can be a bridge. But you can't be a bridge that's discounting either side of the shores. And I think that's what's really great about the conversations we're having here, is that we're like, hey, yeah, I see both. And we're bringing what we learn from one side to the other, and then we're learning from both sides, which has been incredible. Without judgment, because at the end of the day, we're in both worlds. I can't burn either side of that bridge, and I don't plan to.
And for me, I put myself in a situation where my lifestyle allows me to be in both places, right? Currently, I spend this holiday, for example, I'll be in Puerto Rico and DR at least 15 times before the end of the year.
Wow.
So I spend a lot of time over there, and specifically talking about Puerto Rico, it's mind-blowing that the situations that have existed in Puerto Rico for as long as I've lived have not been remedied.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. If anything, if it changes, it's changed for the worse.
Yeah.
So for me, listen, where I grew up at, all the issues, right? Police brutality,
Yeah.
inequity, housing insecurity. I've seen it all. My grandmother was a fierce, champion for the people. She was the founder of Meals on Wheels in North Brooklyn, in Brownsville, Ocean Hill, Brownsville, as it was called back then. And I've seen it all. And one of the things that I don't understand is how something just doesn't get fixed.
Yeah.
Like, if you know it's bad, why do we conform? Why do we just try to live around it? Why do we put up with it? In Puerto Rico, we hear people say all the time, like, "Oh, the people of Puerto Rico are so resilient." And what I'm hoping to that happens from this platform is that we stop being resilient and start being resistant.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, I hate when people say, "Oh, your people, you are all so resilient." Like, excuse me? Like, I don't want to be resilient. I don't want my, children to have to be resilient. Like, don't you understand that the system, the way it exists right now, shouldn't exist? Shouldn't lead to us having to be resilient to actually survive? That doesn't make any sense. How is that healthy? And I think that that's one of the things that we really have to learn, that being resilient is bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's unhealthy. It's a
exhausting.
coping mechanism.
Exactly. It should be a last resort. When your back's against the wall, be resilient.
Yeah, if you have a bear charging at you, then you be resilient.
but don't strap meat to my face and then put the bear after me and then be like, I'm resilient. Motherfucker, leave that bear alone. I don't want to be resilient anymore.
Yeah. Sí, pero que se ve no solamente allá en los estados, pero también se ve en nuestros países, como estaba diciendo George. Like, I've been here a year and I see the disparity. I see the difference between those that have and those that don't. And the Dominican Republic has been really growing economically, like leaps and bounds over, for more than a decade. Pero la situación entre los que tenemos y los que no tenemos es algo que sigue creciendo. La economía aquí crece, pero esa diferencia sigue igual. And so obviously there's an issue, ¿verdad? Y hay algo que tenemos que enfocarnos y hacer. Y pienso que esta plataforma, sin filtros, sin pelos en la lengua, como dice María, es una manera de crear más conocimiento de lo que está pasando para que más personas se involucren, que se entreguen al movimiento de más igualdad.
Sí. And you can't change something until you name it. Ponle nombre. Sí. ¿Qué son las razones? It's not about feeling, or it's not about doing good for the needy. It's about dismantling the systems of oppression that create the needy.
That's right.
And they're talking about the things we don't talk about. Why is there that inequity in Latin America? Why are there still that huge, gaps between the haves and the have-nots? Why are certain ethnicities and races at a disadvantage? I mean, historically always been at a disadvantage. What aren't we naming? What aren't we calling out? And how the hell do we fix it?
I mean, let's just name it right now.
Yeah.
Right? Let's call it out right now.
Colonialism.
Yeah. Who are the people? ¿Quiénes son las personas que tienen poder acá? No muchas se parecen a mí. Te voy a ser sincera, no se parecen tanto a mí.
Se parecen a mí, pero no soy yo. No soy yo.
Did you see my eyes looking at the upper corner?
Se parecen a mí, pero no soy yo. No, but I think that it's not only that, right? It's definitely that colonialism from Puerto Rico specifically has been, they've had their foot on our necks for a really long time.
Yeah.
But it's also ourselves. There are people who find themselves in a situation better than they were in the island, whether they went to Orlando, went to New York or Chicago, wherever they ended up landing, especially after Hurricane Maria, and they start progressing a little bit in that space, and they forget. They forget, a lot of people. I just talked to a friend that just sold her property, and I was like, why are you selling your property? Like, it's just, that investment. When we look at places like East New York now, Brownsville, Williamsburg, Brooklyn,
Oh yeah.
and we see what happens when we give up ownership. Like everything in government, the tax codes, everything is built for business owners and for people who own property.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't own anything, then you do not have a controlling stake in the community you live in.
Right.
And that doesn't matter what country you're in. It doesn't matter where you are. You're a renter, you're a transient, and you could easily be displaced.
Right.
And that's the part that I feel like our people are not getting, or not all of them are getting it. That they
Not
need
all
to.
of us are hearing that. That's the thing. Like that's the whole point about conversations that matter. If if somebody doesn't break it down for you like that, we go with what we know, right? And if our parents weren't wealthy, and people forget like that generational wealth and the means for generational wealth are taught. And a lot of people in our community weren't taught that. I wasn't taught that, right? I'm not going to know intuitively, like, hey, you have to have skin in the game. And the way the government and I'd be like, but I'm a loyal citizen, or I signed up for the army, or I do this and I pay my taxes. I have skin in the game, not in the way the tax code counts, but nobody tells you that.
No. We're raised to believe that because we vote,
right,
we have a say, and that's not true. That is totally not true. And I'm learning that the more I get into like the real estate and looking at my financial literacy and taking it a step further, we don't, we're made to believe that it is. And the vote does count in some ways, in shape and form, but it's not what drives power in the community. It's not what makes people in government listen to us. It's not what makes the decisions in the community. We just decide who's going to be there, but we don't really have a say in making sure and holding them accountable to what they promised us.
But those systems of oppression that we're talking about, like colonialism, for example, that they weren't invested. They made sure that we don't have the financial literacy or the understanding of that, because that wasn't supposed to be who we were, right? If you are sort of engineered to be a working class, don't worry about owning, or don't worry about that. You just stick to your path. And so that's the kind of things that, like I said, you can't fix what you can't name. If I couldn't even name it, financial literacy and understanding of the tax code and the systems of oppression, I don't have that language and the understanding behind that language. I'm just going to do what I know. And if my parents were like, you save your money, and maybe when you're older, you get a Roth IRA, or como se llama esa cosa, that's what you do. And
or
so
CD, or right.
Exactly.
Yes. 401k. Sí, pero exactly. I think that's, I was going to share that, Maria, that, if you live in the United States, like my stepfather, right? He grew up in the United States, and he didn't have access to, or his family didn't have access to purchasing a home because because of redlining.
Yeah.
Right. Even when they moved from the south to the north, they still ran into the same issue when they were living in the Bronx, right? And so they weren't even able to purchase a home until, like, my stepfather was the first one after I don't know how many generations to be able to actually purchase on Long Island, right? And so the system is set up against us. Right. It's just set up. It's designed to do exactly that.
Yep.
And so I really think it's important that we shift blame away from the individual and really shift the blame where it really should be, which is the systems that go back to colonization, but that get reinforced regularly by the rhetoric that we hear, either in the States or that we hear even here in Latin America.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think one of the other things too, where, how I was talking about the bridge and understanding both sides of it. Look, I don't know who I would have been had I been raised in Colombia, right? Because my family in Colombia had they were homeowners and stuff like that, right? Yeah. Then we also have to, as for myself as a first generation, I'm living the immigrant experience, right? Or the firstborn daughter of the immigrant experience. So even if my parents would have been able to be have a different life in Colombia, they gave that up. And so now they are Latino immigrants in the United States of America, which has a very different viewpoint about their capabilities and their potential and what they're destined to be.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I find it overwhelming. There's so many intersecting points for the Latinx in the U.S. because we have the immigrant experience layered on top of language, layered on top of two cultures that we wouldn't have if we were just, Latino Americanos. And sometimes I get overwhelmed, and the rest of the time I'm like, well, that's what it is. And I'm not going to be able to undo it. So we're going to have to just deal with all those different facets and break it down with love and compassion and a certain bit of anger también, and name what we have to name and dismantle what we have to dismantle and be like, yeah, we've got like 10 plates twirling where maybe other communities may only have 6 or 7, but that's what it is. So we're going to have to get 10 hands to help out.
Ya, pero como te digo, teniendo la oportunidad de usar esta plataforma para darle no darle una voz, sino darle una oportunidad a las personas que son parte de este movimiento, right? People that are part of this movement to change the narrative, right? Because that's what Milka's doing, that's what Sita's doing, like all of these folks are doing the work of helping retrain our community, right? To think differently about, okay, well, let's look at this system. Look how it's not working for you. Look how you can do, not only by voting, but actually identifying ways to create assets, right? To create savings, to think about education as a different vehicle for your family, right? So all of these guests that we've had, I think are instrumental in that work.
Many hands make light work, right? And then Mika attacks one side of the problem, and then we've got, for example, I think I'm so part of the shorts that you've done, for talking about the census, right? If you don't know, if somebody doesn't break down for you, this is why it's important. It's like, qué jartera con otro papeleo, ¿para qué sirve? But you need people to go, no, espérate. I know, es harto, o quizás una molestia, pero this is why it's important.
Sí. Pero te digo que es controversial ese censo aquí, pero sumamente controversial.
Wow.
Y no solo porque la seguridad, ¿verdad? Porque mucha gente tiene miedo, like, oh, I don't want strangers in my house. It's not even about that. Es porque algunas personas con poder están diciendo que el censo está tratando de borrar la historia dominicana. Digo yo, señores, ¿y cómo? Digo yo, ¿y cómo? Right? So I just answered the census, and I have pictures I'm gonna upload of me actually talking with the 2 women. And the questions, we finished them in 20 minutes, super easy, super fácil. Y una de las preguntas que yo me quedé pensando después, no me preguntaron sobre la sexualidad, nada de eso, simplemente de tecnología, de mi casa, cuántas personas viven, mis hijos, etcétera, educación. Pero sí me preguntaron de mi raza.
Okay.
They asked me about race and ethnicity. Y, como te digo, nunca había pensado de esa manera aquí en la República Dominicana, right? I'm accustomed to getting the race and ethnicity questions in the U.S., right? But here it was kind of like, okay. Y le pregunto, ¿cuáles son las opciones? You guys have to hear this. Here are the options. Negra. Mulata. Mestiza. India. O blanca.
Oh my God.
Those are the options, las opciones que tiene. Y yo la miraba de las chicas, digo yo, ¿y es verdad que esa es la pregunta? Que me dice, no, usted puede decir, si usted quiere decir que usted es blanca, usted puede decir que es blanca. Digo yo, pero no, pero obviamente no lo soy y no me presento en el mundo de esa manera. Para mí, yo soy afro-dominicana. Eso es lo que soy. Me dice, bueno, si usted quiere poner negra o quiere poner mestiza, lo que sea. And I was just like, oh my God, like, I really wanted to unpack it all and have a conversation about it, but I was just like, okay.
But we even got a comment on Twitter where somebody said that as a proponent of Afro-Dominicanism, you're trying to erase the criollo or the mestizo experience in Dominican Republic through the show.
I know.
Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Es una locura.
Yeah.
Entonces, si yo celebro, si yo aparezco, así como estoy apareciendo en esta plataforma, con mi bello pajón que me fascina, ¿verdad? Y hablando de las cosas que yo sé que son importantes para nuestra cultura no solamente dominicana, pero nuestra cultura latinoamericana. entonces yo estoy haciendo algo negativo y algo mal. Porque yo soy afrodescendente.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
seriously?
Pero esa mentalidad de que tener tú me quita a mí, where does it come from?
No sé.
Bueno,
sabemos de dónde viene.
So I'm going to create a soundbite for future lives, and every time that we say something that colonialism is responsible for, it's going to be like, "That's colonialism." That's colonialism. I'm gonna create that sound.
Oh my God.
It's gonna be like one of those boppets that the kids have.
Sí.
Hilarious.
Pero sabes que es sumamente. I think it was you, Maria, that you sent the little video of the Mexican actor who responded to, I don't know what question he was asked, but his response to what it means to him to play that role in Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
I was moved to tears.
Me too. Because the beauty, I think the question, I actually did, that's a good point. I actually don't think the clip included the question he was asked.
Yeah, no.
But you can tell from context that what he was saying is, and I actually, full disclosure, I'm not Mexican, so I don't know what moritos or moritas are. I'm assuming it's
little children.
Moritos? Moritos son niños, like children?
O niños.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Porque para mí un morito es un arroz con habichuela.
That's right.
Yo quiero un morito, dame un morito, por favor.
Yeah, you're right, moros y cristianos. I'm not sure. But the whole point...
Espérate, ¿qué dijiste? Moros y cristianos.
Yeah. Moros y cristianos is what the Cubans call black beans and rice.
No. So the moritos, to give it more context, the moritos are little black children, essentially. They're descendants of the Moors. So when he's talking in the context that he's talking about it is that when he sees children that are not white or children that are darker that don't see themselves often on TV or on this big screen, that he hopes that they're a little prouder today. Yeah, so I'm gonna actually play it.
Good.
Hopefully.
Okay. Sí.
Lo único que quiero es que la próxima vez que los morritos,
no se ve muy bien.
Morritas se vean al espejo, se sientan orgullosos de ese reflejo, que vean que nunca hubo nada malo en ellos, sino en los ojos que los juzgaron. Si eso sucede, estoy del otro lado.
So the question, there wasn't a question. It was like, what message does he have for the children?
Yeah.
And they don't say black children, but they said for the children. And then he said that, that he hopes that that the children are a little prouder when they see their reflection and realize there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
Except for the people who actually judge them for what they look like. So super, super inspirational. I watched a video the other day. It's so funny. He had a conversation with the director when they invited him to audition for the role.
Mm-hmm.
And all he knew was that this is a big time director. Like he didn't really know whatever, and it was Wakanda. Like he didn't know anything.
Right.
He lost service on the phone because he was international. And the only question that he heard the guy say was, "Do you know how to swim?" And his reply was, "I never drowned." And the whole time that he's having this, then eventually I explained to him what the role was and whatever. But every time they asked him if he knew how to swim, he just said, "Well, I never drowned." And it wasn't up until the time that he actually went in to start filming that he actually started taking classes and learned how to swim.
With the floaties and everything.
Yes.
With floaties and everything. Oh
yeah.
My God.
I just thought it was funny that he refused to let the opportunity go, even though he didn't fully understand the opportunity.
Yeah.
But he was just like, "Hey, listen, I'm going to do it."
Yeah.
And I've never drowned. And he's like, "I didn't lie to them.
I love that attitude. Sí.
I never told them."
Todo se puede. Todo se puede.
Yeah.
¿Qué necesitan? Sí, yo hago eso también.
Yeah.
Yo hago eso, sí, yo puedo, claro.
I love that.
You
That's
just
our
figure it
people.
out later. Yeah, that's our people.
I find it so interesting. And Maria, I've heard you over the years have these conversations about Hollywood and race, right?
Yeah.
I find it so hard to believe that now Hollywood is actually giving us this platform, and still our people are conflicted about what to support.
I will say, I will clarify. Ryan Coogler, an African American director, gave us this opportunity.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what I'm talking about, like the beauty of being Latinx in the U.S. is that it's our African American brothers and sisters that que nos extendieron la mano, because we're still waiting for Marvel to give us a movie of our own.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and our people are still conflicted. I mean, the thing is, and then this is again, go back to that point of like the intersecting points that we face as a community that other ethnicities or communities don't. We're not a monolith, right? And so, you know, and we come up against the realities of the business. So if a movie speaks to the Mexican American market, is it going to play for the Puerto Ricans? Is it going to play for the Cubans in Miami? It may not, right? And then what a lot of businesses are about numbers. So we are conflicted. Yet we and for example, we over-index, right, as moviegoers. We go to the movie theaters because we like to be with each other. And honestly, I'm not going to make that kind of popcorn at home. It never comes out right. Like there's a movie-going experience that we appreciate because we're gregarious. Like let's all be together and like vibe off each other kind of energy. So we like good stuff. But I'm going to go back to like Hollywood gives us the rehashes. It gives us a show from 1970 and be like, here, put a Latino face on it. Now you'll love it. I'm like, look, One Day at a Time was disturbing and depressing when I was 18. It's not getting better today. And then I'm always kind of like, you know, again, sin pelos en la lengua, I'm always the asshole. It's always like, why are we getting the rehash? No, don't give me leftovers and charge me a Michelin price.
Sí.
It's not a Michelin star restaurant. And that's
deme algo nuevo que tenga significado para nuestra comunidad latina.
Right, because you know that we as a community will put our money where we show up.
Yeah.
You know, we show up. So give us something great. Do not play it safe with us. Let us tell our own stories and we'll blow your socks off.
Miren, les voy a decir una cosa. Yo he estado viendo unas novelas. Sí, I feel like I've gone back to my childhood watching novelas, you know, with my, you know, aunties and uncles. And I have learned so much, like being able to just reconnect with the storytelling. It is so rich and funny, right? That I feel like, ay, ¿por qué no hacemos nosotros algo así también, pero que sea internacional para que todos puedan tener acceso?
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, white Hollywood doesn't know us, and so then it throws rehash stuff at us, and then it's like, oh, you don't support, or we don't know what to support. I'm like, no, I know to support good stuff. Give me good stuff. But you're gatekeeping all the really creative, original storytelling. Yeah. Betty La Fea from Colombia broke a friggin' bank. How many times was that remade around the world? We like, you know what I'm saying? There was Betty La Fea in India. Había feas en India. Había feas en la China. There was
China, en todas partes.
Hay feo donde quiera.
Se caían los feos del cielo. But that made money everywhere, right?
Yeah.
You gave us a shot, and there, you know. But it's about that. Let us be creative. Let us put our own stuff.
And what do you say, Maria? To so it's no secret that In the Heights was a big controversy, right? In terms of how Dominicans viewed how they portrayed the neighborhood and whatnot. So, but what happens when we're overly critical and don't support a project that has a big budget, and then Hollywood takes that as a sign that, okay, well, they're hard to please. Let's go with the easy stuff.
Well, I was part of that conversation, right? And by the way, I'm friends with Olga Medellín. She was amazing. I cried when I went, you know, just, spoiler alert, she doesn't make it. But, you know, I love the movie. But at the same time, I get really pissed. I'm like, don't tell me that I'm precluded. I cannot have an important conversation about representation and diversity in casting and call me a bad Latina for it. I can have both things, and I'm going to take that privilege for myself, and I'm going to demand it for all of us. So I will support because it was a hell of a movie and I loved it. But at the other end is like, and also, listen, Spielberg's West Side Story didn't do so hot because musicals are a hard sell anyway. So I don't like it when people that know the business then just blame it on like we're having a tough conversation. No. I'm entitled to have a tough conversation. I'm entitled to say I need to change the game, and I'm entitled to support. And all those three, they do not have to be mutually exclusive.
That's right.
Yeah.
Snaps.
Yeah.
Eso es cierto. Tienes mucha razón.
Pero
también, ¿por qué tiene que ser Hollywood? ¿verdad? Why is it only Hollywood that has that power? If we, as you said, George, we know that con todo la comunidad, the Latinx community that exists in the States alone, right? We would be like the seventh, wealthiest nation. If we know we have that power, si tenemos a toda América Latina, ¿por qué tenemos que apoyar a Hollywood? Why can't we do our own things and celebrate our own people and tell our own stories?
Oh man, I have an answer for that. It's not really politically correct, but unfortunately, and I won't name the network.
Sí.
The networks that do have that power, that are creating content in the United States, are exploiting their workers and their actors and their creators. So it's a sweatshop for all intents and purposes. And you don't have to go far on Google to find out who we're talking about.
Yeah.
But a lot of the soap operas, I mean, they try to unionize. I'm not sure where it ended up, but maybe Maria, but there's a lot of situations where the companies that specifically tap into that creative market are not willing to pay what they're due for their talent, right? And what's ended up happening is that social media has provided a platform where people can create their own thing with their own budgets and monetize it, and is decentralized. So we have a lot of really, really great content like Tambora Dialogues that's decentralized. We don't belong to a network. We don't belong to a platform. We're not driven by ad sales. We're not, none of that. So we get an opportunity to be creative and do exactly what it is we want, but we lack the distribution.
Right.
The distribution is what we don't have. I mean, we have YouTube, which is the second biggest, the biggest video platform in the world, but we don't have the vehicle to get that mass consumption.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. I mean, I honestly,
if Tambora was on TV, if Tambora was on a major Latino network or Latina-owned network, then we would have a bigger audience. But how hard is it to get into there? And
Pero también el tipo de conversación cambia, ¿verdad?
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Because then we have to subscribe to their specific mandate, and I don't want us to do that. So I guess team, we're just gonna have to make this huge.
Yeah, I don't
right? We're gonna have to take over the world, like Pinky and the Brain. You guys remember that? You watched that as kids.
I do want to say hi to one of our viewers, Bohemian Babushka. I love her. I know her for many years. She's an amazing creator, Cubana de Miami. She's dope. Thank you for joining us. For those people who are watching, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the replay, look in the comment section. There's a special link there. We have special gifts for you if you subscribe to our newsletter. And I want to show you exactly what it is. And Erasma, you could talk about the person who created this. But these are the T-shirts that we're going to be giving away. We also have tote bags.
Sí. Diseñado por Miguel Moises.
Yes.
He is amazing Dominican designer, and he was the person that created our logo, our Tambora Dialogues logo. And we reached out to him, y le dijimos a Miguel, oye, Miguel, ¿no puedes crear algo que de verdad pueda capturar la esencia de Tambora? Y él diseñó estas fantásticas ideas.
I'm going to play it one more time. So the only thing you have to do, lo único que tiene que hacer es mirar ese enlace que tenemos en el chat.
Sí.
Y darnos tu correo electrónico para que tú recibas los updates, los avances de Tambora Dialogues, y te mandamos esto hasta internacional. Así que no importa de dónde del mundo tú estás viendo, te vamos a mandar las camisetas o el tote bag. Ahora, Erasma,
dime.
Háblame un poquito de la sorpresa que te llevaste cuando viste las analíticas de YouTube.
De las analíticas, tú dices de
este programa.
Gráfica.
Las analíticas, meaning the analytics. Like when you looked at the analytics, what kind of surprises did you? We talked a little bit about it in the beginning, but like, what are some of the things that really stood out to you?
That stood out to me was our audience, that we have a fairly engaged young audience, like young people between the ages of 18 to 35. We even have some older folks that are tuning in, which is great, but the young people really are enjoying, our episodes, really engaging with the conversations that we're having, which is absolutely fantastic. And the fact that we're getting a lot a lot of attention from folks en República Dominicana, mi gente en Colombia, nuestra gente en el Brasil, en Puerto Rico, and it's thrilling for us to see because it's helping us to know that there is a desire for these types of conversations out there. So thank you. We're so proud of that.
Yeah.
We also, just so you're aware, in case you've never watched one of our videos and just stumbled upon this live, we try to make the episodes as accessible as possible. So they do have captions. So if it's in English, there's Spanish captions. If it's in Spanish, there's English captions. So you could definitely enjoy our videos regardless of which language you speak. But we would like to hear from you. We would like to hear and find out. I mean, at some point we're gonna have to do some kind of poll and figure out what do you prefer, because we're very language fluid. As you can tell, we've been going back and forth.
Hablamos en ambos. Sí, y si quieren un poco de francés, yo puedo. No tanto, pero puedo un poquito. Y falo portugués. So
I do a little sac passe, little Haitian Creole. I'll be like, Negro pale tu bagay. I love you.
Ay, pero mírate a ti, Jorge.
So we only have about 9 minutes left. I want, Erasmus, can you give us a sneak peek of what people could expect over the next couple of weeks as we move into 2023?
Sure. So, ya básicamente pienso que esta semana, mañana, por ejemplo, yo me voy para la frontera entre la República Dominicana y Haití. Y allá les brindaré, por ejemplo, noticias sin filtro sobre lo que está pasando allá, para que vean de otra perspectiva ese tema, porque aquí en la República Dominicana hay una perspectiva que es muy rígida y es importante que la gente vea cuál es la actitud de los dominicanos y los haitianos que comparten, right? There's a market here, like that's been around for like hundreds of years, and so this anti-Haitian rhetoric is really impacting that, right? So let's see it from another perspective. I'm going to go talk to a mayor, the governor of the area, a journalist, and some local folks who are going to give us, different ideas about what's really happening and what they suggest that we do, not only here in the DR, but also, internationally.
Yep.
From a human rights perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is the if you don't mind me asking, what is the official like mainstream media and DR kind of rigid talking point?
It's just anti-Haitian, anti-Blackness.
Okay.
Right? That's the narrative, and that's the narrative that has existed since Trujillo. Okay. I don't really know what it was like before then, pero te digo que durante esa etapa de Trujillo, his goal was to whiten the Dominican populace.
Okay.
AKA mejorar la raza, como dicen.
Mejorar la raza, sí. And so that rhetoric, even though he was deposed in many ways, it still continues. So it struck a chord here in the Dominican Republic for a reason. Right. And so we need to get to the bottom of that. We need to understand the root where it's coming from. Obviamente, again, you ready, George? Colonialism.
This is colonialism.
This is colonialism.
George, ¿qué pasó?
I'm totally gonna create that soundbite.
I want one of the, like the Staples Easy button. I want to be like colonialism.
Yeah, no, they have programmable little like handheld devices where you can program sounds.
Sí.
And I'm totally gonna get us those.
Sí.
So we could
So, y bueno, vamos a hablar sobre eso. We're gonna have a conversation about, Latina, Latinx, Latino, Latina, Hispanic, we're gonna go deep into that to really understand, I don't want to call it the pros and cons, but the different perspectives on it.
Yeah.
And what feels comfortable for the individual, right? Because I think that we all identify in a different way, and I think that there's space for that, but I think we need to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And then we're going to probably have, a couple of conversations with some folks from Costa Rica. I won't name names yet because I haven't confirmed, and some folks from Colombia. That's coming up too. And also we're going to revisit the conversation con Puerto Rico.
Yes. Yes.
Sumamente importante. So these are the things that, esto es lo que viene por ahí, así es que tienen que mantenerse atentos.
Yep.
I'm sorry, if anybody's interested in actually pitching an idea or a story, something that you want to see, if you have a resource that we could use, tamboradialogues@gmail.com.
Sí.
Just email us and, let us know what you have on your mind. I mean, we're open to a lot of different topics. And I feel like everything that we've touched so far has been something that's completely off the grid in terms of media coverage.
Yeah.
I think that you're going to find a very unique, it'll be very interesting to see where we're at 10 years from now when we look back at the archive of conversations we've had and how many of those conversations advanced to a level where the mainstream is talking about them.
Well, one of the things that I want to say that I was especially proud of, we were, when that leaked audio came from LA, was it the city council, right?
Yeah.
We had that conversation early on. One of our first episodes, like first or second episode at Tambora, we were having the conversation about white supremacy, as counterintuitive as it felt within the Latinx community. So I feel like we've been ahead of the curve because we have these conversations early and sin filtro and sin pelos en la lengua. And I think that that's one of the things that is most important to me about what we do, because we've had these conversations and we see them reflected back later, right? And then it became a national talking point. That, how could this be? They're also Latino, and I'm like, we're not a monolith, man. And white supremacy lives in colonialism. You have that button?
That's colonialism.
El botón.
We're doing it manually for now. And the other thing too is I think that the guests that we curate for the show are not the people that if the mainstream media was covering it, they would have speak on it, right?
Right.
They would find a safer option. They're not going to talk to people who are going to give them the truth. And I think that we have an amazing family in our drum circle now of people who are truth sayers, people who are actionable, who are doing the work, and that are not afraid to go on the record.
Right.
And I think that that's part of the magic of what we have here in our drum circle.
En Tambora. Sí. We're not afraid of speaking, the truth.
Yeah.
So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we're down to 2 minutes.
Bueno. Sí, qué rápido pasó el tiempo.
Lo queremos mucho, mi gente. I am going to pull us out so Erasma can give you some closing words.
Thank you for everything.
Gracias a todos por sintonizar y por apoyar a Tambora Dialogues. Y bueno, para aquellos de ustedes que se quedaron durante la hora completa, recibirán una camiseta y un bolso de mano. Simplemente como ven el enlace abajo que aparece en el chat, simplemente denle un clic a eso y complete el formulario para recibir sus 2 regalos de Tambora Dialogues. Gracias a María, gracias a George y gracias a todos ustedes. Como les dije anteriormente, estén atentos porque el próximo episodio de la semana próxima es el viaje a la frontera entre Haití y la República Dominicana, donde les brindaré noticias sin filtro sobre lo que está sucediendo allá. Así es que, mi gente, estén atentos, estén comprometidos, manténganse saludables y nos vemos. Hasta pronto. Chao.